I'm so proud. I'm really so proud. I'm from Thailand. Thailand is a small country, but I want to show what Thai people can do. But now I'm so proud to be here.
Tony Jaa, the martial arts legend who stunned the world with his fearless stunts, vanished without a trace. Was it a breakdown? A career ruined by industry control? The truth is even darker than you think. In this video, we look at the shocking story that caused his sentence. Stay tuned to find out. From Surin to martial arts. Tony Jaa's story starts in a small town in Surin, Thailand, where he and his family work in the rice fields. In Surin, people didn't start having big city dreams, but for Tony, it was there that a spark was lit that would take him all over the world. His parents, Rin Saipech and Thongdi Yiram, were not well known, but they taught him something very important: how important it is to work hard and have hard will. Tony had bigger goals than fame and money, but no one ever pushed him to go down that path. Tony has always been interested in martial arts heroes. He not only watched movies of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li, but he also looked up to them and became inspired by them. He didn't just want to respect them, he wanted to be like them. He thought martial arts were magical because of the way people moved and used punches and kicks to tell stories. For him, these weren't just fight scenes, they were works of art. But how could a little boy from a farming community become like the guys he looked up to? Still, Tony didn't like to wait for things to happen in his life, but instead, he started to work on it by himself. While most kids were playing games, Tony was out in the fields copying the moves he saw on TV. He kicked, punched, and flipped over and over until his body took to the movements like they were nothing. Nothing fancy about the coaches or the gym, just raw skill and a strong desire to get better. At age 10, something big happened. Tony first learned Muay Thai at a temple not far away. There was more to it than just fighting. It was about discipline, honor, and knowing a lot about the history of the martial art. He was very strict with his lessons. There were no soft mats or big pieces of equipment, just the usual, hard way of doing things. That did, however, help to define who he was. He wasn't just learning how to fight, he was learning how to live. Tony went on past that point as well. He started competing in Muay Thai matches in his neighborhood as he got bigger. He stood out. He wasn't just another kid in the ring. He hit harder, moved more precisely, and didn't break his focus. People began to look around. One problem, though, Tony didn't want to be a normal fighter. He was tired of going to training camps and fighting matches over and over again. Instead, he was looking at a bigger stage. Tony's chance came up not long ago. One person, Pana Ritakrai, saw something unique about him in a world full of familiar paths. The legendary stunt planner Pana was known for making action movies come to life with the craziest and most realistic stunts. Pana knew right away that Tony had a pure gift that no one else had looked into. Tony was asked to join his trick team, which would change everything. Tony wasn't a little kid anymore who learned martial arts in his neighborhood. He felt like he was a part of something bigger. He was learning from Pana how to do dangerous tricks. That was the start of Tony's career as a stuntman, but it was only the beginning of a journey that would soon take him to places most people could only dream of. Still, something else was happening that would make Tony go from being a simple stuntman to a famous action star around the world. Then, how did that happen? What did Tony Jaa do that made him famous? But Tony's true breakthrough came with Ong Bak, the film that would change everything in martial arts cinema. The Making of a Star. In 2003, things happened that will never be the same in martial arts movies again. A big screen effect from Muay Thai warrior Ong Bak seemed to shake everything up like a thunderclap. It wasn't just another action movie. It changed everything. Tony Jaa used to practice Muay Thai in Surin and was now causing chaos around the world. People all around him were mesmerized by his quick, spontaneous movements. There were no wires or computer-generated images. Instead, real acts made you feel like you were right there with him. That's what made Ong Bak special. It was really real. People were asking, how is he even doing this? As Tony threw punches, spins, and knee strikes. The world saw what a real martial arts movie could be like through Tony's work in Ong Bak. It wasn't the high-tech edits or special effects that made Tony's body stand out. In every battle scene, he was the one who pushed himself to the edge and did all the tricks. He did everything with great power, skill, and accuracy, like a work of art that was carefully made with great care. The movie wasn't just about flashy moves. It was also about feeling the fight, the sweat, and the battle. People were interested because it looked real in a way that had never been seen before. Tony Jaa became the face of modern martial arts movies, and Ong Bak was a big hit. Tony didn't want to quit, though. In 2005, 2 years later, Tom Yum Goong, also known as The Protector, came out, and Tony showed the world once more what he could do. This movie went even further. It grew beyond Muay Thai, and Tony added something new. One of the most memorable parts of the movie was a 4-minute fight scene in a restaurant. The whole fight was caught in one long shot, so you could see every punch, kick, and flip. Tony was not only fighting, but also telling a story with his body language. And how the fights were choreographed? Not like anything anyone has ever seen. The action was both beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Tony's skill in performing these dangerous moves without wires or computer-generated images raises the bar for martial arts pictures. He wasn't just pushing the limits, he was making a whole new world for action stars. Every movie got better because of Tony Jaa's star power. He quickly became famous all over the world, not just in Thailand. Fans all over the world were calling him the new face of martial arts movies. A lot of people began to compare him to Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Jet Li. And it made sense. Tony's style was a unique mix of modern, tough edge, and traditional martial arts. His moves were exact. His stunts were daring, and his acts were real. The best thing about it is that he did it all himself. Nothing, not even fake pictures or doubles. People wanted more than just Tony Jaa. As his fame grew, Hollywood became more and more interested in him. Not long ago, well-known directors and producers were interested in Tony's skills. Tony was honest, strong, and could move in ways that even experienced action stars would have noticed. These were traits that martial artists hadn't seen in years. He wasn't just a martial artist, he was a real-life action star who could do stunts all over the world. As Tony's career soared, so did the pressure. His next challenge would come from those closest to him. Career struggles. Tony Jaa's rise was not as smooth as it seemed at first. He was kind behind the scenes, but the expectations of being famous were getting to him. Things were about to get even more difficult for Tony. But you might think that when you get big, everything gets easier. He was fighting to be in charge of his whole business, not just movies. His bond with Pana Ritikrai was the first clear sign that something wasn't right. Pana had been Tony's guide. He was the one who first saw how brilliant he was and gave him the chance to shine. But the pressure grew as their jobs did. Changes that were creative started to creep in. Pana and Tony had different ideas about what their next big project should be, which is what caused the highly anticipated movie Sword to be cancelled. This was the start of them getting farther apart. Tony the rising star, felt more and more restricted, and Pana didn't like the way things were going either. Still, Panatoni wasn't the only one fighting. The Thai company Sahamongkol Film, which was responsible for his early successes, had a tight grip on his career. They controlled everything about him, including the movies he made, how much money he made, and where he worked. Tony was becoming famous all over the world, but Sahamongkol was keeping him in check. They didn't like it when he played roles outside of Thailand or left the Thai film scene. It was like being locked up in a cage. The world outside was calling. They wouldn't let Tony move up in his job, even though he really wanted to. Tony wasn't pleased that the company wanted him to keep making the same types of movies that had worked in the past. He wanted more. He wanted to get away from Thailand and show them that he was more than just a martial arts star. But because of how he affected the company, that was almost impossible. He was excited about more than just fame. It was his creativity and the freedom to choose the jobs he wanted. The real turning point happened while shooting Ong Bak 2. What was supposed to be a follow-up to the hit first Ong Bak turned into a nightmare of a production. Tony was in charge of the movie and not just playing in it. A great deal of stress was present. He was doing things that were even more dangerous than they had been in the past. Besides that, he had to handle creative disagreements, keep up with production, and talk to the center about the growing stress. Too much for one guy to handle. Tony quickly felt stressed out. He wasn't seen on the set for weeks, and rumors started to spread. Some said he broke down because of stress, while others said he was trying to get away from it. No matter what the reason was, it was clear that he couldn't handle everything. Tony had to take a break, which was something he had never done before because he was too tired to keep going. The company didn't know what to do and ran to nowhere. They were trying to keep the movie on track, even though things were getting out of hand, without Tony's help. This was the start of a very bad time for Tony Jaa. The man was struggling just to keep his head above water. He seemed indestructible at one point. At last, the body pains of action work, the stress of being under studio control, and his own problems had caught up with him. So what happened after that? This was the end of Tony Jaa's career. Would he be able to make a comeback? The tension with Pana and the studio was just the beginning. Soon, a much bigger challenge would force Tony to make a choice. The sentencing of Tony Jaa. Behind Tony Jaa's rise to fame, whispers began to spread within the industry about a shadowy force that was quietly controlling his every move. While Tony was known for his incredible fight scenes and gravity-defying stunts, there was something even more powerful at play behind the scenes. The rumor was simple, yet chilling. Tony Jaa was under a sentence imposed by the very people who made him famous. But what does that even mean? The sentence wasn't some formal court ruling or jail time. It was a tight, controlling contract from Sahamongkol Film, the Thai studio that had been handling his career since the beginning. This contract wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a chain, one that limited Tony's freedom and creative control. While he was the star of hit movies like Ong Bak and Tom Yum Goong, he wasn't in full control of his career. Sahamongkol Film kept him tethered, making sure he stuck to the projects they approved and limiting his movement outside of the Thai film industry. What made this even more frustrating was that Tony was becoming a global sensation. Hollywood was knocking on his door, but Sahamongkol had other plans. The studio didn't want him to leave. They wanted to keep him in Thailand, making movies that worked for them. And if he tried to break free, well, that's where the 50 million naira demand came into play. If Tony attempted to sign a contract outside of Thailand or pursue international projects, the studio would hit him with a massive financial penalty. 50 million naira. Can you imagine that? Having a giant weight tied around your neck while everyone else is telling you to run free? This sentencing was more than just about money. It was about control. Saham Onkol had invested a lot in Tony's success, and they were determined to keep him in their grip. But that came at a cost. Tony, who had once been full of energy and excitement, began to feel the strain. The pressure was building, and the studio's demands were suffocating him. It wasn't just the studio holding him back. It was the weight of his entire career being controlled by someone else's hands. In 2010, after years of feeling trapped, Tony made a shocking move that no one saw coming. He disappeared from the public eye. The man who once captured the world's attention with his stunning fight scenes was now stepping away from it all. Rumors flew about why Tony disappeared. Some said he had a breakdown, others believed he was simply done with the industry. But one theory stood out. Tony had retreated to a Buddhist monastery to find peace and clarity. Maybe it wasn't just the industry pressure that drove him to this decision. Maybe it was the sentence that kept him from breaking free, from pursuing the career he wanted. Whether the 50 million naira demand was the tipping point or not, this sentencing fueled even more speculation about Tony's sudden departure. People started wondering if he would ever return to the big screen. Was he done with movies for good? Or was this just the break he needed to come back stronger? The mystery of Tony's disappearance added to the enigma of his career, leaving fans and industry insiders alike eager for answers. But for now, Tony Jaa remained a legend in limbo. What was next for him? Only time would tell. The disappearance of Tony Jaa. In 2010, after years of feeling trapped, Tony made a shocking move that no one saw coming. He disappeared from the public eye. Tony Jaa, the action superstar who had wowed audiences worldwide with his jaw-dropping martial arts skills, suddenly disappeared from the film industry. It wasn't a normal break or a vacation. No, Tony made the shocking decision to leave behind his fame and fortune and step away from the cameras for good. He decided to become a Buddhist monk. At first, people were stunned. How could Tony, who had been on top of the world, just walk away from everything? Was it a mental breakdown? Was he running away from the pressures of being a global action hero? Or was it something more? A chance for a spiritual reset, a break from the noise of the world? The answers weren't clear. Fans, critics, and even his colleagues were left to wonder why someone who had just been at the peak of his career would suddenly vanish without a trace. As the weeks turned into months, rumors spread. Some said Tony had reached his breaking point. The constant pressure of being an international star, the toll of performing dangerous stunts, and the struggles with the studio must have weighed heavily on him. Others thought he simply needed to find peace. After all, Thailand's Buddhist traditions are all about finding balance and inner harmony. Maybe Tony felt that he had given everything to his career, and now it was time to focus on something deeper, something more meaningful than fame and fortune. Whatever the reason, Tony's disappearance was felt across the martial arts world. He had been the face of a new era in action films. Ong Bak and Tom Yum-gung had changed the game, and Tony had quickly become a household name. But now, with him gone, a void was left in martial arts cinema. Fans who had eagerly awaited his next big movie were left in the dark, wondering if they would ever see him on screen again. His absence was like a shadow hanging over the industry. While Tony was meditating in the monastery, the world around him moved on. Other stars, like Donnie Yen and Iko Uwais, stepped up and took the spotlight. Hollywood, which had once shown interest in Tony's talents, moved on to other actors who could deliver the high-octane stunts that had made Tony famous. For a while, It seemed like Tony had disappeared forever. His career was frozen in time. But the question still lingered. Would Tony ever return? Would he leave behind his monk's robes and come back to the screen? Or was this the end of the road for the martial arts legend? His disappearance left the world guessing, and the mystery only deepened as the years went by. Was he truly done with the film industry? Or was this just the calm before the storm? And so, as the world moved on, the legend of Tony Jaa continued to grow, with fans waiting, hoping, and wondering what would happen next. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Click on the next video popping up on your screen for more amazing content.